Taking the Myth, your topical, skeptical discussion show. I'm Stephen Knight, and joining me to bring all the big-brained input is Iram Ramzan. Iram, how you doing?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm especially pleased we're recording on a Sunday afternoon rather than a late evening when we've both just finished work and we've had to throw some sort of haphazard meal down our throats and we're kind of like scrambling with our notes and it's a bit chaotic. This is nice.
It is. I mean, it's also nice considering how the clocks have gone back as well. So, got an extra hour.
That extra hour. Thank you, Father Time.
Yeah, it does make a big difference on a Sunday as well, where everything is so quiet as well. You know, I think it really is God's day, isn't it, or Jehovah's day?
Movies. I wanted to talk about a movie.
Oh, are we going to the movies, or
if you want, might as well. Saw Terminator Dark Fate last night. It's garbage. Don't see that. Whatever you do. However, I saw an amazing movie. That was released a little while ago. Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, an adaptation of the famous DC character Joker, Batman's arch nemesis. And it was just, I mean, first of all, I'm a massive movie nerd. Movies how I communicate with people, strangers. You know, and you usually strike up conversation about the weather with people. I go with movies. I bond over movies, and you know, if it's a little bit awkward with someone or you're not gelling, I always find you can find common ground if you talk about movies. I remember reading an interview from Michael Owen once, ex-England and Man U and Newcastle footballer, and he said that he doesn't watch movies. He doesn't see the point. He thinks he's seen about two. Exactly. He thinks he's seen about two movies in his entire life. That man's quite clearly a psychopath, isn't he?
What the hell? Who doesn't watch any kind of
movies?
He has to be lying that, or he really is a complete and utter sociopath.
He's a bellend, absolute bellend.
The fuck? He won't know the delights of Singing in the Rain, or Gone with the Wind, or
Transformers.
Or Frozen, you know?
Exactly.
Or Hustlers. I mean, that is a movie I bet he would enjoy. I mean, J-Lo, Dancing on a Pole. Come on.
Why not?
I'm sure even Michael Owen can get on board with that. I got on board with that.
I think he's just the most boring man on the planet. But
what does he do in his spare time then? I mean, they'll say play football, because I doubt he plays football in his spare time.
I think he's interested in horses, racing horses, breeding with horses. Unconfirmed, made that up, can't back it up with any sort of evidence.
I mean, I like horses in a normal amount too, but you know, it's not.
I'm not. You know horses. Take them or leave them. You know what I mean?
Oh, what? Oh God, is he married?
I think we're going on a very unnecessary Michael Owen tangent.
No, this is the big question.
Fucking Michael Owen.
Okay, is he married by any chance?
I don't know. I mean, his poor wife, if he is. I mean,
I was just going to say, because if he's married or if he's had a girlfriend, surely one of them would have taken him on a cinema date or something like that, if he's had a fair few girlfriends. Or if he's married, I will quickly look this up, by the way. If he's married, he surely will. Yes, he is married. He's still married. Like, what do they do when they're at home? They must do something, because they can't all always just be, I don't know, having sex, right? So they must do something in between. What, you know, you curl up on the TV, watch a movie, watch a drama, watch something. I don't buy that.
Fuck Michael Owen.
Yeah.
Basically.
He's really. I swear. I can't get around this. I mean, I could talk for a whole hour about this right now. Really.
All right, where was I? Oh yeah, Joker, the movie. Joaquin Phoenix, very adult, R-rated. So that's a 15 in the UK. Violence, blood, harsh language, adult themes. So before the release of this movie, the press in America, and quite a fair bit in the UK actually, were building up this film to be some sort of alt-right, white supremacist propaganda piece. You know, this privileged white male who doesn't get what he wants in life. You know, this incel, this involuntary celibate thing that takes up a lot of column inches nowadays, which I don't know how much of your time that's worth, but they were saying it was some sort of incel propaganda movie. The privileged white man not getting what he wants goes on a killing spree. You know, it's emblematic of the mass shootings we see in America. So not only were they saying that it was a representative of a certain political viewpoint or ideology, they also went on to say that it will inspire mass shootings. People will...
Because they don't have enough inspiration.
Yeah. I think what happened as well is there was the Dark Knight Rises shooting when the last Batman movie came out of the Christopher Nolan trilogy. Some guy shot up a movie theatre in Aurora during that screening, and some of the press sort of irresponsibly reported that he'd dressed up as the Joker to do it, and he hadn't. He had orange hair, basically. That's it. There's no incarnation of the Joker that has orange hair.
So he's just ginger?
Yeah, well, it was self-inflicted. The hair, that hair color that he had came in a bottle, but at no point did he say that it was
Joker Hu Akbar.
Yeah, Joker Hu Akbar. So even the prosecutors say actually no, it had nothing to do with Batman. It could have been any film that day. He just went into the screening and started shooting. The guy's mentally disturbed. But a lot of the tabloids, they need a juicy narrative. So it didn't happen. There were no shootings. Strangely, the only thing the film seemed to inspire was
makeup?
Yeah, well, there's a part of the film was filmed in New York where the Joker dances down quite a large flight of stairs. A lot of people have been flocking to that, like it's some superhero mecca, and getting their picture taken dancing down it. So it's been quite a positive reaction. So I suppose what I'm leading up to here is Joaquin Phoenix got interviewed about this. Every interview he did, he was asked, do you think this film might inspire violence? We're back to this argument we were having in the 80s about movies, and he flat out refused to answer the questions because he kind of implied that, you know what, just talking about it, saying that could it inspire violence, might be like a beacon to people who are unbalanced and are looking for an excuse to cause violence. So I suppose my question is, with this bear baiting by the media, almost nudging people, come on, give us a shooting, do you think this is irresponsible to talk about films in this way beforehand, to say this could inspire violence? Fucking Michael Owen, though.
I blame Michael Owen for this. I mean, actually, no, if more people were like Michael Owen, right, they wouldn't watch movies, ergo, they wouldn't watch the Joker, and they would have been inspired to do crazy shit. There we go. See, Michael Owen is a role model.
Exactly.
Really.
You know what's especially funny about this, though? How they were building it up to be some alt-right, far-right propaganda. Now, I did film studies at college, and went on to do it at university as well, and so a lot of time is spent analysing films through a political lens, and it can get very dull, and I try not to do that anymore. I try just to enjoy it as a piece of art for what it is.
Then that's what I'm saying, like, do most people when they watch a movie really think so deeply about it? They just watch the movie. They don't sit there analysing a thing. Oh gosh, if only that frame had been slightly longer, or, oh God, wow, watching this has made me think about white supremacy in America. It's movies are there really to entertain, really to take your mind off things, and certain movies will make you really think about a certain topic, but they're mostly there to entertain. So I don't get it.
I agree. So I mean, sometimes there's a political subtext within a movie that's there if you want it. If you want to find it, if you want to analyse, you can find it. The thing about Joker is the political angle of the film is obvious. It's overt. It's there on display. You can quite easily say, well, this is this. And the really extraordinary thing about this film is the antagonist or protagonist, whichever way you want to look at it, Joker character. Now, he's a mentally... Spoiler alert, by the way, if anyone's not seen the film, but I don't think I'm going to give anything away specifically, but he is a mentally ill person who, due to government cuts, gets a lot of the welfare's cut in the country, and he can't get access to psychiatry. He can't get access to his medication anymore. And then he goes on this killing spree and kills some rich Wall Street type people, which then sparks.
So...
It's a left wing emphasis.
I was just about to say that.
It's an anti-capitalist, and further,
it's an anti-Tory government movie. If you think about it.
Well, I mean, if that isn't on the nose enough, furthermore, these murders of these affluent young men go on to spark a street movement where a load of people take to the street with masks, holding anti-capitalist signs about bringing down the man and
Sounds like,
killing the rich.
Extinction Rebellion.
One of them even has a sign saying "Kill the rich." So the bad guys, should I say, or the violent people, or the uprising in this film is a left-wing, anarchist, anti-capitalist movement. It's basically Antifa. So you can't even get to it being an alt-right, far-right, incel movie. I mean, if that was there, I would have said it was there, but it isn't. So the media's been incredibly irresponsible over this, and I'm glad that there have been no mass shootings that have been correlated with it or ran at the same time it was released. Not yet, anyway. But I just think it's. Can you remember? We used to have this conversation all the time years ago about whether or not movies, video games, and rap music to an extent inspired violence, and it was always really ultra-conservative, religious Christians who were pushing this narrative. Now it seems to be left-wing, quote-unquote, liberals. I don't know if you've noticed this yourself.
I have. I mean, don't they? Don't some people always say that the left is the new dogmatic group now? I mean, it's like feminists as well. They often echo the view made by Islamists. I mean, look at the whole Me Too movement, and after those allegations came out against Weinstein, and then there was that trend in Hollywood where actresses were deciding they were going to dress quote unquote modestly and not be too sexual. And I thought, hang on a minute, that sounds more like victim blaming. That sounds like the kind of stuff that you hear your random firebrand cleric.
Sounds like the kind of shit
mosque.
You'd hear Michael Owen say.
No, he wouldn't, because he doesn't watch movies. He doesn't watch anything, so he doesn't know any of this, okay? He's living in the most perfect bubble, okay?
Right, let's go and find out where he lives. I'm so incensed by this. Let's pause the podcast and go and fucking find out where he lives.
I think he's innocent. I think let's not take away Michael Owen's innocence here. He doesn't know any of this shit is happening around him. He's just there with his horses, He's horsing around.
All right, well, that's Joker covered.
I have not. I saw the first one, the one with Heath Ledger.
Oh, yeah.
His soul. God, that was years ago, and I can't really remember much of the plot now, but I remember when they announced that Joaquin Phoenix was going to be the new Joker, and I thought he's going to have a lot to live up to. And in terms of his performance, I think everyone has praised him for it.
Oh, it's spectacular. It's really the film lives and dies on his performance, I would say, and it is wonderful.
That was the other point I wanted to make. I think I read one review. I mean, I should watch this for myself, but one review was saying that it centered too much around him, and if it wasn't, I mean, I know it's called the Joker, but what they were saying was there was nothing else to say about the movie. It was just mostly about his performance.
I think people are confused about a movie now that is solely based on character and performance, and we don't get that much anymore. There's a lot of explosions and quick cuts, and I terminated Dark Fate last night. I remember switching off halfway through the film. I was so bored. Well, it's nice that we've branched out to movie reviews.
Yeah. Should we get Michael Owen to do that?
Get Michael Owen. See, we can get him on the fucking phone. Michael Owen. Well, one of the things this podcast I think has been exceptional at over the last few months is our regular updates on Shamima Begum, on Spaghetti Bagram, the ISIS bride, the Jihadi bride, the girl from, where's she from? Birmingham? Of course she's fucking from Birmingham. Who?
Excuse me, it's so racist. She's obviously from Bradford. No, Spaghetti Bolognese is from East London.
East London. She's near Beth. Was she one of the Bethnal Green girls?
She is one of the Bethnal Green girls. So there were 3 girls. Well, there were 4 in total, but there were 3 that hit the headlines that went together because they were caught on CCTV flying to Turkey and then crossing the border to Syria. They were these young girls, 15 and 16, just decided to leave home one day and join ISIS. And once there, they got married to jihadi fighters. And then most of them, I think, are dead now. And Shamima, as far as we know, is the only one who's still alive because she was found by a Times journalist back in, I think it was February or March this year. And
in a Syrian detention center, wasn't it?
I think it was a refugee camp or something like that. It was she was found and she had a child, and then it then died.
Several, I think.
Yeah, she had 3 children, and they're all dead now. And her husband, he's Dutch. I think is he back in Holland now? I don't know what's happening with him, but he claims he still loves her and he wants her back.
Those two.
Yeah.
Those crazy kids.
Someone should make a movie about their love story. She was just this innocent schoolgirl, wanting to keep Yazidi sex slaves, and he was this brave fighter from Holland who just wanted to kill all infidels. And there they are in this war zone together, and they make it work. Ugh.
Writes itself, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, Michael Owens would love it. Anyway, so. Bolognese, she basically had her citizenship stripped.
Yeah, our Sajid Javid took a very strong stance on that.
The Saj, as apparently they call him, he's the Home Secretary, so he stripped her of her citizenships on the grounds that she could claim Bangladeshi nationality through her parents. Her solicitor saying that now they're claiming she is a rape victim and she'd been brainwashed. Because she was 15 and her husband was 23. Now, I get it. If she was in this country, that would be statutory rape. But that didn't happen. I mean, I don't know what the law is in Syria about statutory rape or whatever. But I just think it's a bit odd now how she's had all these months and now she's going down the whole, oh, actually, I'm a rape victim. I'm innocent in all of this. Please don't punish me for it. Her lawyers are also saying, because they were in court last week or the week before discussing this, because they're appealing the citizenship thing. They said that she only told Anthony Lloyd about her support for Islamic State because she feared for her safety.
They're playing the game now, aren't they?
Oh, do you know? Oh, honestly, I think what really annoys me is a former Met superintendent, Dal Babu. He claimed, "Oh, let's face it, she's, she wasn't bright or gifted." Excuse me, hang on a minute. When they went, I remember we were told on previous occasions that she was, by all accounts, a quote-unquote sensible girl and a talented and dynamic student at the high-flying Bethnal Green Academy. So we've been told that these girls were grade A students. They were academically intelligent. I get it. Being academically smart doesn't necessarily make you street smart, but these are girls who managed to plan their escape quite well. They nicked stuff from their family and sold it to fund their trip. Stupid people can't do stuff like that,
Yeah.
I think the problem that we're having with this is that if Sajid Javid stripping her of her citizenship was quite a knee-jerk decision, I think. And
yeah, it's populism.
It is. And, if he had just waited to get the proper legal advice, then I don't think we'd be focusing on it too much, because now the conversation has shifted. No one's really focusing on what she actually went out there to do and what kind of person she is. I get it. She was young. But at the same time, she wasn't innocent in all of this.
Yeah.
There's another jihadi bride, I don't know if you read about her, but Tuba Gondal, she wants to come back. She's got children. She says that she didn't do anything wrong, but if you look through her social media account, it shows that she was a matchmaker for ISIS, and she was a big recruiter, and she was going on about being some sort of martyr, and that's what she wanted to do. So now I think the Sunday Times reported today about how ministers are discussing this idea to get these so-called jihadi brides back. And I just wonder why adult age women, I get it, maybe some of them were young at the time, but why they're thought of so differently than their male counterparts. Nobody would be saying about the men, oh, well, they were very young, oh, let's bring them back. Yeah, the men may have carried the guns, but the women provided so much support in the war, including bearing the torch of indoctrinating future generations. And that's what they went there to do. They went there to breed children for the fucking caliphates. They weren't bystanders.
Yeah.
Fine, we get it. They need to be punished, but I I don't get why they need to be brought back here to be punished. Because, was it al-Megrahi, the Libyan guy? My understanding is that when you commit a crime, you should be tried in the place where it happened. So, the Libyan guy, Abdul Basit al-Megrahi, the one who's convicted for the Lockerbie bombing early, I think in the 90s it was. He was convicted by Scottish judges for the Lockerbie bombing. So I don't get why they have to be brought back necessarily here. If the crimes they've committed were over there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I've got two main issues with this. The first being she's deeply unsympathetic. So the first time we found out she was there, she started saying I should come back. Furthermore, you should feel sorry for me for the way I've been treated. Okay, that's not going to wash with us. That's not going to wash with the British public. It's certainly not going to wash with the government. Now she's saying, actually, I'm the real victim here. I'm the one who's been mistreated. I'm a rape victim, etc., etc. She's deeply unsympathetic. She's not really renouncing her views, which I appreciate given where she is, might be too much of a risk. Now, my second point about the citizenship thing is, I really, really struggle to care about her plight, but on principle, I think she should be brought home and tried. Now, if someone's to put a piece of paper in front of me and say, should she be brought home, sign that, I'd sign it. If we had a referendum, I'd vote for her to be brought home. I'm not going to take to the streets and bang the drum about this. If she doesn't, I'm fine with it. My point is, though, if an illegal immigrant came to the UK from Syria, where she is, and committed crimes, we would quite rightly want the right to send them back to their origin country and say, you're in this country legal one and you're a criminal. We don't want you here, and we'd send them straight back to Syria. And I think we have to say on that premise that the people of Syria get to send back Brits who have turned up in their country to commit rape, murder.
I don't blame them. Yeah.
So that's where I am. On principle, I'd say bring her home. If the government says we're not going to, I'm going to go, oh, all right then. I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't think that makes me a hypocrite.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that in a way. I think I would be standing there campaigning for her to be brought home,
like the fucking Labour Party is.
Oh, fucking hell, don't even get me started on those.
What a hill to die on that is. Bring our girls home.
I was reading a piece, it's in the Sunday Times today. It's by David Davis, Tory party politician David Davis. He wrote a piece saying how let's bring the children back, because if we don't, they'll grow up resenting us and they will be our future enemies. I don't know how true that is, but I think what that really goes to show is how we as society and people are really big on human rights and doing the fair thing and the right thing, even for people we really fucking dislike. Because if you think about it, are any of the other countries in the Middle East doing anything like this? Probably not, no. Whereas people here thinking, you know what, we need to deal with this in a sensible manner and in a way which is fair to everybody, because the easiest thing would be to do, fuck them, leave them alone. But everyone's thinking of the children here because, the children are innocent. They haven't done anything except be born to absolute, half-wits, basically. What would you do with the children when you bring them here, though? That's my only concern. Where are they going to be? Where would they live? How would you bring them up?
Yeah, I think the issue we've got is it's not as simple as we've got a British national
it's not
abroad
simple, really.
Committing crimes, because the process there is quite clear. The issue we've got is we really, really, really need to disincentivise people joining ISIS. And if you've got a British passport and actually, if I survive long enough over there, I can just come back home and get due process, and there's less of a calculated risk for them personally to joining ISIS or heading out to Syria or crossing the border at Turkey or whatever. So we're between a rock and a hard place where we have to show we're better and the rule of law must be followed and due process. However, we've got to avoid giving them an easy ride.
this is one thing I wanted to pick up. Anti-Westerners, and by that I mean, like Stop the War Coalition. They like to go on about how the West is so unfair and waging wars, illegal wars, and fine, there might be some wars we shouldn't have got involved with, but due process is very, very important here. And it's like I said before, these countries in the Middle East would not be doing the same thing as us. They would have either, I think Iraq was just executing all these people, whereas we're saying, no, let's not do that. And let's think about the children here. I think that's what really does make us stand out. All these people who go on about how, oh, the West does this, the West does that. Actually, no, a lot of the time we follow procedure here. We think about what's the fair thing. And it really pisses me off when people talk about how, really slate the West when, okay, but, fucking hell, you have more rights here in Western countries than you have over there in those countries where, sometimes there is no rule of law.
It's basically where anyone who wants a better life tries to get to, either legally or illegally. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, there must be something to this Western lifestyle that we're all privileged to enjoy. You have to be that incredible to be able to freely... these people in our country and in the States and various other Western countries who are rich, they've made a living off attacking the West. It's what they do. They live in the West, and the West they have the freedom to attack it from within, and as they should. You know what I mean? I'm not suggesting they shouldn't. I'm just saying that goes to show how free you are, the fact that you can be in a place and say whatever you like about it, and not only does nothing happen to you, enough people might agree with you to the point where you can get rich and make a living out of attacking the West. Go and try that somewhere else and see what happens, is my advice. Mehdi Hassan. Michael fucking Owen.
Hey, come on, what's Michael Owen?
He's done something. He must have done something. Well, that's the Shamima Begum news for 1 week. I'm sure we'll bring her up again. The next thing I wanted to bring up, which has been sweeping the globe, but it's been also making a splash in London, and that's Extinction Rebellion.
Oh, fuck's sake!
Yeah. Now I'm a bit annoyed about all this, and it makes it really difficult for me because I'm not a fan of street protest and street movements in general, even if I agree with the cause they're in favour of, right? So I have to kind of come out and say Extinction Rebellion are just not helping. I think their tactics are counterproductive, and I think they spout a lot of nonsense at the same time. So instantly I'm a climate change denier. You see how it works? Whereas in reality, I believe climate change exists, I believe it is man-made, and I do several things in my life to try and reduce my impact. However, I don't think these fools that are spraying red paint all over the Treasury, climbing atop tubes, gluing themselves to things, doing fucking yoga on Westminster Bridge, and saying that bringing down the patriarchy and capitalism is the way you deal with climate change. What are your thoughts on these unwashed?
I really wish they'd fucking take a bath and just eat a burger. A meat burger. Well, basically, I think the Met Police, because of all these demonstrations, they issued an order to ban them from their protests, and now they're in court trying to get this order overturned. Because they're saying this is an abuse of power by police, which I suppose I get in a way because fuck the police in it.
I don't think they've not banned them. They've just banned them from being in central London, I think, and I think that's because if your movement every time it comes out can reliably produce criminal damage, because bear in mind. Did you see that video of those two XR protesters? They were on the tube, and everyone was going on about how. So basically, I think it was a tube station in East London, and two XR supporters, they got on the fucking tube because. Actually, I don't know. I thought we were all supposed to be using public. It's ridiculous. I mean, just as a point of fairness, Extinction Rebellion, I think they voted against taking to the tube to disrupt it. So these people were
that's not the point though. They're anarchists. There's no bloody hierarchy within the group, so people do what they like. So this is what I have against anarchy. You can't have a group with just do what you like mentality. You need to have some rules and order. Rules are good, okay? Sometimes they're there to be broken, but if you have an organization, you need some sort of structure. You need rules and regulations in place. You need a system as well in order to hold certain people to account. Otherwise you end up like the Labour Party. And so you had these two protesters. I get it, fine, Extinction Rebellion saying it was like really bad, innit? But they just this is how ludicrous they are becoming now. It's just hard to know exactly what they're going to do, because everyone thought, they're just protesting against climate change. But I don't get the point of having a demonstration on top of a train when people are trying to get to fucking work. And everyone, there are a few people, I think Ash Sarkar, that proud communist,
literally
a communist, you idiot. She was going on about how, look at this mob mentality, look how angry they're getting. Have you seen the video? That guy who was on top of the train, he's the one that kicked the person in the head who tried to get him off the train. So he's the one who kicked him first. So you can't just claim he's innocent in all of this. And I don't understand the purpose of these demonstrations. That you're trying to make people sympathetic, and you're not going to do
this. This is my point. The far left ruin everything when they get a cause and take it to extreme.
Everything.
They have give the green light now to conservatives, centrists, right wingers to say, look at the fucking lunatics on climate change. This are clearly, like, I already didn't believe in climate change, and now I especially don't have to pay attention. Look at these lunatics. And the point on protest as well. Like, the right to protest, assemble in the street, and have your voice heard must be protected for everyone, including Extinction Rebellion. Now, I'm on board with that. If they were just peacefully protesting and the police banned them from central London, I would be on their side. The police had to arrest over 1,000 people. They reliably produce vandalism, criminal activity, and illegal disruption every time they go to the street. So I think the police are right in saying, actually, we can no longer have you in central London. They do this to certain football fans. They say you can't be in these pubs, you can't be on this street after this time. They mitigate the chances of violence and civil unrest. It's not a perfect system, but it's a better system than no system. It is my point. And a lot of people were saying, where are all the free speech warriors now protecting Extinction Rebellion? I'm like, well, are they going to break the law? Are the police going to have to arrest over 1,000 people every time they go to the street? The trouble causers disruptors, and they have set the climate change movement back here, is my overarching feeling.
I think the problem
fucking
also,
Michael Owen.
But the thing is, Extinction Rebellion, I mean, a lot of their protesters do want to bring down the system. They want to overthrow capitalism. So, of course, they're not going to be peaceful. That's what they want to do. They want an end to this system. So they really are a bunch of far-left anarchists. That is the aim of what they're doing. And I don't understand how they want their aims to be implemented. I mean, fine, I get it. There are massive problems that we have in terms of the climate and what's going on the planet. I get it, but I don't think some of their claims do stack up, really. I think one of their organisers, or I don't know if she was a leader, she was on Andrew Neil's show on BBC, and she just couldn't answer some of his questions and some of the scientific claims that the group was making. I don't think they really even know what they actually want to do except overthrow the entire system. And unfortunately, they've got the backing of really rich morons as well. So you've got money being thrown at these people to stand on the streets and cause disruptions to people's life, when all they really need to do is spend some of that money on a bit of fucking soap and shower gel, go take a bath, and eat a burger. This is why I hate vegans, okay? Right.
Yeah, but this is why I hate far left vegans, because vegans are right, but the far left spokespeople for veganism just make people like you think that it's lunacy, and you're justified in thinking that because of these fucking idiots.
I thought veganism was stupid even before this. Okay, let's not even go down this route. Okay.
Well, there's something I wanted to pick your brains on specifically, because you got first-hand experience about this, and I couldn't quite believe my eyes when I saw this on Twitter. And that was the Forbes article, and I will just read. I mean, I thought of you straight away when I read this, but I'll just read you what was said. And this is Forbes. They released an article on the 12th of October this year, and the headline is "Why Pakistan Should Be on Every Solo Female Traveller's Bucket List." I'm going to read that again. Why Pakistan should be on every solo female traveller's bucket list. I mean, now the obvious joke is there. If it's a bucket list, it's likely to be the last thing on it. But as someone who has hiked and trekked around Pakistan, that time when you was training, at a wedding, I can't remember what it was. How do you feel about a massive publication like Forbes encouraging women to travel around Pakistan on their own?
So I've heard of this Eva Zubek, the one that was interviewed, and I've seen some of her vlogs and her articles just on about traveling to Pakistan. It's not the first time she's done it, because I remember seeing this video when she was in Pakistan, and she was going on about how, it's so hospitable, everyone's so friendly, nobody is letting me pay for anything. Well, yeah, you're an attractive young woman from Europe, you're not Pakistani, you don't look Pakistani, and you've got a fucking camera around you, so yeah, people are gonna obviously make you feel welcome. And it's really frustrating, because I remember in the article, she writes that there's this idea that traveling solo as a woman is dangerous. But, whenever I travel alone, people really went out their way to help me and make me feel secure and comfortable. Not many women travel solo in Pakistan. Geez, you think. So one that does immediately become a kind of sister, and people are very conscious about making you feel welcome, and there's a sense of protectiveness towards women in general here. While this isn't necessarily always a good thing, in the specific context of travel, it's meant that I've always felt very safe. Well, yeah, you're a privileged white woman, you are going to feel safe. If you're Pakistani or of Pakistani heritage, it's a lot more difficult for you. You get, oh God, I can't tell you about the times I've been catcalled or, followed and made to feel so fucking uncomfortable. I went trekking 2 years ago in northern Pakistan, and, I admit, I had a lovely time there. I did feel relatively safe to a point.
You wasn't entirely on your own, though. Yeah.
No, I wasn't alone. I was with a group of women. I was with a group, and yeah, in compared to other parts of Pakistan, I actually felt it was more woman friendly. But would I go there on my own? Fuck no, I wouldn't. It's I admit Pakistan is a great country to have a look at, because it's there's so many things to see there. Up the north you get all the beautiful mountains there, and in Lahore, for example, in the Punjab, you get all these historical sites which people should see. They've been there for hundreds of years, and unfortunately, I don't think any of the governments there are doing anything to preserve them. And if they don't, they will be gone soon. So they're worth having a look at. But I think she really needs to make it clear that she gets to do what she does because she's a privileged European woman. Many of the Pakistani women there cannot travel on their own unless they're from a very rich background, and even then they'll only they'll be in a certain bubble and you'll go to certain areas maybe on your own shopping. But even then, are you going to be travelling the whole place on your own? No, you won't. I remember she also caused controversy when she went to Syria. I don't know if you saw that, but she posted a vlog about travelling to Syria and how, oh, it's just not what the media's portraying it. And I thought, what? A war zone? Because it is. I think some people were commenting that she was being taken around and sponsored by the Assad government. I don't know if that's true. But if it is, then that would explain a lot. And, you know, I think the Pakistani government has been doing a lot to promote her as well. So that, of course, that's why she's going to go around feeling safe and secure. Other women do not have that privilege.
I think there's a lot of this kind of sort of middle class, we're all human, we're all the same, you know.
But okay, yeah, I get it, fine, if you want to break certain stereotypes, but I'm sick of these articles where everything is about, oh, let's smash the stereotypes, you know. There might be some things about Pakistan that the average person might not know, but there are some things that do stack up. Like, it's not exactly the best place to go on your own if you're a woman. But I just remember when I was out walking on the streets in Lahore, I was getting picked up by my friend, and he's waiting for me. He said, oh, I'll just wait wherever. I said, yeah, I'll just walk up. It's just a 5-minute walk. What can happen? And oh my God, like all these men were walking past just leering and singing, and oh God, it was just so disgusting. And then out of nowhere, this random rickshaw driver made me get in, and I was like, what? No, I'm alright, I can walk. He goes, no, please get in. I think he was kind of worried about my safety. So in a way, I had someone looking out for me, and he didn't charge me or anything. But that was quite nice.
Well played, that man. Yeah.
Well played, that man. But I don't know what you thought when you read that article or when you saw any of her vlogs. I don't know if you've seen her vlogs, but I just think she's being really, really disingenuous. I think I can see why people would make videos about breaking certain stereotypes, but I think if she's got a large audience, she has a duty to be a bit more responsible as well. Maybe other Western women, if they go there, it might be okay for them to go because everyone will be like, oh, white skin, let's protect it. Whereas if you're Pakistani, you know, no one gives a shit. You're like a foreigner without the privileges over there. But I don't know what you think about, you know, some of the vlogs that she's posted.
I'm not familiar with her work in general, but I mean, I think it's not.
She's a knob.
Yeah, she probably knows Michael Owen.
I'd actually want to fucking slap her for being so irresponsible. Really, I do.
Well, that's what it comes down to me. It is irresponsible because it's not objective in the sense that it doesn't acknowledge the reality faced by Pakistani women day in, day out in that culture. It doesn't address the dangers of women travelling alone in patriarchal societies which are deeply religiously conservative. It's not just completely, like, obviously there are a vast number of decent people in Pakistan and from Pakistan. However, I think your risk factor does increase significantly when you travel to regions like that, especially when you do it alone and especially if you're female. I don't think there's anything controversial about that. So it's the idea of playing it up to be this wonderful nirvana, this amazingly enriching experience you can have on your own as a woman. That's what really concerns me. And like I was saying a moment ago, we've seen a lot of this about these kind of middle-class tourists taking a gap year now and visiting either Morocco or other places and ending up in jail or killed. And they're so naive to the world, and they just assume that they can rock up and say, "Hey, friend," and everything's going to be as comfortable and welcoming and hospitable as it is in their home nations. And that's not true. Not all cultures are the same all the time, everywhere. There are differences. And if you're a product of one culture, it can be a big shock to you to experience just 5 minutes of another. And I think it's deeply irresponsible to pretend there is no difference from region to region.
There definitely is. And when I tweeted about this, there were some British Pakistanis on my Twitter who were just being so disingenuous and saying, "Oh, you're telling me you wouldn't even go to certain rich areas of Lahore on your own?" And I thought, well, I would walk down the street in between going to shops. Yes, But that's not quite the same as walking around the bloody city and getting, risking being hollered at or leered at, and then they're just becoming so disingenuous, saying, "Oh, there are certain parts of London I wouldn't want to go to in the dark or on my own." And I thought it's not quite the same. Yeah, I get it. As a woman, it's difficult walking out on your own at night, regardless of where you are. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same where you're talking about traveling to an entire country even during the daytime. I mean, there are certain areas where you don't even see women in public either. And can you imagine being a woman in those areas where, you're probably not as covered up, and then you see that it's all men everywhere and none of the women are even out of the house.
Yeah, thanks, Forbes. Well, we're very quickly approaching the hour mark, and there's something massive happened today. I suppose big enough in terms of the world news and in terms of
finding
ISIS.
out Michael Owen.
Michael Owen's, completely barren movie shelf. Oh, Jesus Christ! I can't stop thinking about this. I'm gonna have to meditate on it later.
I think if people have got this far, I think you should, if you have a listen, send us movie recommendations for Michael Owen, and we'll be sure to pass them on to him.
Yeah. Well, earlier on today, there were some rumours flying around that a US-led operation had resulted in the death of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the Islamic scholar, head of ISIS, terrorist extraordinaire, deeply unpleasant individual by all accounts. And then later on, Donald Trump called a press conference and announced that he had been killed. In fact, it had been confirmed. Trump's rhetoric was quite spicy, not for Trump, but for these announcements in general. So if you contrast it to when Obama announced that they'd killed bin Laden, they were almost
respectful?
Clinical? Yes, clinical's the word, but he didn't dwell on details, and they refused to release photos, and they didn't give you a blow-by-blow account of what had happened, and they pretty much buried bin Laden at sea before we'd even knew what had happened. Trump was quite explicit in describing what happened, and he gave reasoning for it. So Trump said, and I quote, and this is about al-Baghdadi, "He died like a dog. He died like a coward, crying, whimpering, and screaming." Now, Trump shared this information because he felt that, the would-be ISIS recruits should know how al-Baghdadi died. It isn't glamorous. He wasn't a martyr. He wasn't some impervious, mythical being. He was a man at the end of the day. And in his final moments, he behaved like a coward. And he actually detonated himself. He was cornered in a tunnel. The US army dogs were approaching him, and he detonated a suicide vest, which also killed a number of his own children as well, which is just a horrible thing to contemplate. A man's a coward. Now, I actually agree with Trump on this one. I think that not only is this a military battle in terms of eliminating enemies of that caliber, I also think it is a battle of ideology in terms of how you talk about your enemy, what information you give out, how you project yourself in these situations. So I want to get your thought on this. So my first question is, do you think that this is really significant in the terms of a leader has been killed, in the sense that so was bin Laden a while back, and obviously we had the emergence of the Islamic State after that. So I just wanted to get your opinion on how significant you think this killing will be, and secondly, what do you think about Trump's rhetoric?
Well, I'll start with the Trump one, because when bin Laden was killed, Trump tweeted, "Oh, let's stop congratulating Obama. He didn't do it. It was the Navy SEALs." So oh, hang on a minute, Trump. And in terms of his rhetoric, I mean, it's not the kind of language you'd expect maybe a US president to use. There's quite a lot of bravado in it, and there's a tone of revenge in it as well. But you have to remember who this man was as well. He was a mastermind behind so many terrorist attacks worldwide. And a lot of the victims of ISIS, but not just people in these countries here in Europe, but a lot of Muslims in Iraq and Syria and the Middle East have fucking died because they didn't agree with ISIS's horrendous barbaric teachings. And I mean, first of all, is he actually really dead? Because he's died about 20 times already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it is quite significant. Even though he's been removed, I think killing him doesn't kill off his message and his teachings. You know, his ideology is still fucking out there. He's a symptom of the ideology. He didn't create it.
Yeah.
And, you know, he wasn't the only one that sustained ISIS's power structure. There's probably going to be, you know, ISIS is largely defeated, but the ideologies are still there. You know, there's going to be other Baghdadis if we're not vigilant.
That's a really good point, because a lot of people fail to understand the threat here, because they think it, you know, this is an ideology. It has no borders. It's not a nation. It's not a hierarchy that you can just chop the head off the snake. This is an ideology that transcends nation, transcends borders. It transcends ethnicity, social class, education, gender. It's an equal opportunity ideology, and we can't just think because we've killed the final boss, so it seems that all of a sudden, you know, he's not the head vampire from the Lost Boys. So obviously, yeah, I think there will be a re-emergence. Something else will come next.
Yeah, I was just reading through the Twitter feed of somebody who's in counter-extremism, and he was saying that his death is a big problem for ISIS, but not for the reasons you might think. He said in terms of its tactical implications, you know, a lot's been made of how he's nothing more than a figurehead, but we know based on certain examples of folks that even those in the upper echelons of ISIS that can have an impact in his day-to-day affairs. I mean, it could impact ISIS in the short term. But I mean, in terms of strategic impact, I'm not really sure. I think he was also saying that jihadi groups are more likely to survive through decapitation when they have strong bureaucracies in place. So I don't know. If there's a good structure there, then that this might only halt them temporarily, but, you know, you can't just... Bad ideas don't die because you've killed a person. You know, bad ideas can only die or have less of an impact if you really, really challenge them. And I don't think we should just sit here celebrating his death as something that will be the death of extremism or terrorism. It's not. I don't think it spells the end of ISIS necessarily. There are so many things out there that will lead to the creation of other terrorist groups if you have certain factors in place. You know, if you have ideology, you have certain grievance narratives, and you have a power vacuum. And unfortunately, a lot of these countries, they do have a power vacuum. So I don't think we should be complacent about this at all. No,
I agree. And it's been a little bit disheartening. Like, I don't like Donald Trump, and but I don't join in on the constant, incessant Trump bashing, because I think, one, it's counterproductive because his base just see it and think, look at these lunatics, and two, I don't think people should use this today as an excuse to attack Donald Trump, which is what I'm seeing on Twitter from the blue tick brigade.
Was his interview on this weird though? He said, where was it gone? He was at the press conference and he said, they call it a canine. I call it a dog. A beautiful dog. A talented dog.
He's just, people think he's some master troll, and there is an element of that, but the obvious truth is there is no filter between brain and mouth. He's just a stream of consciousness, and unfortunately, that consciousness isn't particularly bright or articulate. He's not a sharp mind. I mean, only in America does that man make it to the most prestigious house on the planet. Anyway, see, I'm going down the Trump ranting route again. But I don't know, I mean, this is something that's just been sent to me as we're recording, and I'll have to verify it, so I might cut this out if it's not accurate, but someone's got a screenshot of the Washington Post, and they had a headline which they've since changed in response to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's death, and the headline was, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, austere religious scholar at helm of Islamic State, dies at 48? What sort of obituary is that for the leader of ISIS?
They should have said K9 dies age 48. Hang on, 48? He looks really rough for 48. Fucking hell.
Yeah, so I welcome the news, and the thing is, I know this is a little bit petty on my behalf, but I'm kind of really fascinated to hear Jeremy Corbyn's views, because as of yet, he's not released any statement, which isn't entirely unusual. Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, has already spoke about it, and he actually said, this is good, but it's not the end. We still need to, tackle this problem. But the only reason I'm interested in what Jeremy Corbyn has to say is because when it was announced that Bin Laden had been killed in a raid by the Americans, he used the word tragedy to describe it, or tragic, one or the other, because Bin Laden hadn't been taken alive and brought to justice, which just displays...
Oh my God, do these people... this just goes to show... I'm really sick of these, armchair critics who have no idea what it's like to work on the fucking battlefield.
Well, case in point...
You don't always go in there to capture someone. You go in there and you shoot to fucking kill. That's how it works.
Especially in that situation. I think... from an idealistic point of view, if you can bring somebody in like that alive, you should do. Should you put yourself at risk for that? Should you take extra risks to do that? The only way you should bring these people in alive is if they're face down with their hands interlocked behind their head saying, I come in peace, don't shoot me. Then you should consider it. The fact that Bin Laden had a gun when they kicked the door down to get to him. The fact that al-Baghdadi detonated a suicide vest today. So how many American lives are worth bringing him in alive? 1? Is that a fair swap? 2 or 3? How many people should we put at risk with, wives, kids, parents to bring in a notorious terrorist? So it just displays a complete ignorance of how these things work and a massive naivety in just the way of the world in general. It's like people do this whenever a cop shoots someone in America. They speak about it as if, well, that guy didn't shoot at the police first. No, but he had a gun and wouldn't put his hands up. So the police officer has to wait? The police officer has to wait for him to get a shot off and go, fair play, you've had a shot at me now, I can return fire.
It depends. There are some instances, there was that video of, I think, a couple at a supermarket where the cop was just being really aggressive with the mum and the baby. Maybe I have to see the full video, but from what I could see, there was no justification for that. But yeah, if you have a gun, then obviously that's different. Can I just actually make a small correction? The canine comment was actually Trump paying tribute to a US dog that was injured in the operation. So that was the beautiful dog. It's
such a contradiction though, because he said al-Baghdadi died like a dog, then went on to praise a dog that died heroically.
Was he? Did he die or was he? No, I think he was injured.
Oh, was it only injured? That's good news.
Yeah, because he said the canine, a beautiful dog, a talented dog, was injured and brought back.
Oh.
So the dog is okay. Okay, can we put everyone's hearts at rest here? The dog is okay. It's safe. She is safe. but yeah, that's funny how he said Baghdadi died like a dog, and he didn't die like the dog because the dog's alive. So
I think there's a little bit of a method to the madness in this situation with the rhetoric of dog, because as you know, dogs are often considered haram within certain Islamic cultures, and I think they're considered unclean, horrible beasts, and that's why you don't tend to find a lot of them in Muslim households, even in the UK. So I don't think that was an accident that he'd use a dog, the term dog, to describe the leader of Islamic State. I think, unless maybe not. I don't know. Maybe Trump used that kind of language.
Are you reading too much into this, like the Joker movie?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't think that's an accident. I mean, could we find any other examples of Trump calling people dogs? Perhaps if we can find loads of them, then I'll change my mind. But I think that word was chosen specifically. I mean, he has mentioned stuff like this before. I mean, he's not completely ignorant to the ideologies. He spoke about, I think at one point, threatening to bury Islamic State soldiers with pig's blood, or he's referenced that. So he knows the ideological underpinnings of a lot of these fighters. So it wouldn't surprise me.
You're giving Trump far too much credit.
I honestly, when he's right, he's right, and I think he understands this issue far better than some of his opponents do. But that's about all I'll say about him. That's positive for the next year.
That makes you a white supremacist now.
Basically,
there's
good people on both sides, Iram. But good people on both sides. All right, so that's al-Baghdadi down.
Like a dog.
The austere religious scholar.
Dog.
Yeah. So do we have time for anything else?
I think should we do the ASLAN?
It's the ASLAN Awards.
There's this misconception that people derive their values from their scriptures.
Who goes to hell?
Gays, fags, hundreds and hundreds of Jews.
You identify yourself as gay. Why do you then choose to be Muslim when it says explicitly in Judeo-Christian tradition that is prohibited?
There's this misconception that people derive their values from their scripture.
The ASLANs.
The ASLAN Award is an award given to an apologist spouting lies and nonsense. We have one contender for the ASLAN Award this week, and I'm going to do my utmost not to misgender her, which I managed to do several times on a recent podcast, quite subconsciously. So we'll see how you get on here, whether or not you commit a hate crime in the course of this segment.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to offer up the one, the only Jessica Yaniv as the topic for the ASLAN Award. And I don't know how much you know about this. Have we spoke about this on the podcast before? I know it's been on the agenda, but I'm not sure. I can't quite remember whether or not we got round to it or not.
We have spoken briefly about Jessica Yaniv before. I don't know if it was in our previous TTM, but we've definitely mentioned it in the last couple of months.
Right. Okay, so she was born biologically male, Jonathan. Really?
And she is still biologically male.
Of course.
She has male parts.
Yeah, she describes herself as intersex. Now, normally this wouldn't be on anyone's radar. Fine, live the identity you want, whatever. However, this individual took it upon herself to test the parameters of civil society in quite a novel way. She still has male genitalia, but identifies as a woman, and she visited numerous waxing salons in Canada and asked to have her scrotum waxed. Every time I say her scrotum, I kind of have to remind myself what world we are living in and what we have to accept now. Okay, so she went to various salons to get her scrotum waxed, and each and every one of them refused under the premise of we don't wax male genitalia. We do women's genitals only. We don't want to touch male genitalia, right? Now, she initiated several suits, criminal proceedings against these tanning salons to say that she was being discriminated against based on the fact that she is transgender. And now these all went to court, and it was up in the air for a while. You thought maybe this could go her way. You know, we are saying that everything's equal under the law now. Could it be possible that a legal establishment may decide that women by law have to touch the testicles of biologically born men if they claim to be female? And luckily, reason prevailed, and the cases were dismissed. Just about, but it went on for quite some time. And Jessica has been ordered to pay something like $2,000, Canadian dollars, in cost to these women, and I think it's $6,000 in total. But what have you made of this entire phenomenon of this one individual that's attracted so much attention? And how much harm do you think someone like her is doing to trans rights in general?
Oh my god, the whole thing has been so fucking ludicrous. It's bollocks. It is bollocks, and it's
big
about
hairy bollocks apparently.
Well. Oh my god, men are not women. They are not. They're not. And essentially, this whole case boil down to, should a woman be forced by law to touch a penis she doesn't want to touch? Because that is essentially what they were trying to get women to do. Women have been warning about this. They've been expressing concerns about the results and repercussions of gender identity ideology and the legislations for years now. And the whole thing has an Emperor's New Clothes vibe about it. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a really, really good article on thepostmillennial.com, and it was about the truth about Jessica Yaniv. And in that, it shows a series of Facebook messages that Jessica sent to, I think it was some sort of beautician, and she was asking her all sorts of questions, where she's claiming she doesn't know how to use knee pads. And then there's some really disturbing details that emerge from that, where she's talking about young girls, and she says, it's so weird referring to him as a she, but okay, fine. What can I say or do in the changing room to bond with these other girls? The restroom I've mastered to some degree, asking for pads, tampons, and complimenting makeup and shit. Would asking for a pad and tampon in the changing room still work? And this woman responds to her, and I don't even know how the hell she continued this conversation, because that would have been like a block. And then she continues, if I notice a girl that's nude below and has a tampon string coming out when I'm changing and doing my stuff, is it weird to approach her to ask her for a tampon or pad, just to bond with her a bit over period stuff? I really want to make friends in there. That's kind of a goal of mine. In regards to tampon strings, LOL, those strings aren't exactly short sometimes, LOL. And, I would really recommend reading that piece, because it just shows what kind of mentality this person has. I think this is a very, very sinister person. I think it's this really disturbing behavior. And if that had been a non-trans man saying things like that, I think that person would have been fucking arrested or put on some sort of register. And then she was going around on that Ask FM, which is a semi-anonymous website where you ask somebody a question. And Yaniv allegedly, provided some young girl under the age of 16 with her phone number. And the girl just replied, how about no? And she was just doing this for several girls. Now, I don't know how she's getting away with this kind of behavior, but this is the logic of gender self-ID. It's this kind of logic now. It's seen male rapists being sent to women's prisons because they now self-identify as women. Then those trans women have then gone on to assault and attack the women, biological women in there. It's also the logic that means, a trans woman who went through male puberty can now be winning bloody gold medals in the women's cycling championships, women's world cycling championships.
Yeah, here's the problem though. Yaniv's a right-wing conservative's wet dream, in the sense that she typifies everything that in my opinion, falsely, the far right or the right or conservatives believe about the trans movement.
No, all trans are not like this.
Yeah.
I know that, and I acknowledge that, and not everybody is saying all trans people are like this, but unfortunately there's a minority now, and the minority of activists who have been banging this drum, and for some reason we've given in to them.
Yeah, the problem is because she's this archetypal, emblematic thing to the right. She's a sexual predator. She's an opportunist. All these things that they conflate with transgenderism, right? And the thing is, because there is no immune system, the immune system is so weak within this movement, because every time somebody has a different opinion about it or wants to challenge something, they're shouted down as a transphobe. So all the sensible voices who have questions about female safety, who have questions about the nature of gender identity, who have questions about whether or not biologically born men should compete against women in sport, those people who raise these genuine genuine philosophical, ethical, and let's be honest, practical and sensible concerns are shouted down as transphobes. They're lumped into the same category with no distinction as people who say stupid shit like, oh, trans people are just sexual deviants, trans people are faking it, trans people are mentally ill. Those idiots who are transphobic get lumped in with people who just say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't let biologically born man beat the shit out of a biologically born female in an MMA ring. Maybe we shouldn't put biologically born men in the female wing of a prison because she says she's a she. These are perfectly legitimate concerns, but because anyone who raises them is shouted down as a transphobe, this movement has the weakest immune system possible, and it is destined to get worse unless people start helping, or rather people start acknowledging the legitimate concerns about it. Like the problem is as well, there's so many sensible trans women voices in this movement. I interviewed one of them the other week. That when they speak up, they're shouted down with like horrible abusive terms and dismissed as not the correct trans. We see it again, and if I can draw a comparison, which isn't perfectly spot on, but it's kind of in the same ballpark. It's the kind of experience I see ex-Muslims getting when they get a little bit too uppity about Islam. You know, they're a bit too vocal about it. They're more often than not, they're non-white. They know about Islam, and when they criticize it, the people who claim to care about them, the far left, shout them down and smear them and basically play their hand and demonstrate that the far left doesn't actually care about minorities. They care about minorities that will parrot the far left's politics. And I think that's what we're seeing with the trans movement here. Is there is areas and there is scope for disagreement and finding truth, which this is what I think. Like, I think that finding truth and getting to what is accurate about this whole topic will help transgender people. I think I'm a huge believer in the truth will set you free, and I think that pretending that this argument's over and then it is this one thing and any deviation to it is pure bigotry is going to harm one type of person, a trans person.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because somebody tweeted us about this, asking, you know, is the Alliance LGB, where they broke away from
so that's the Stonewall.
Stonewall, yeah. They said that they're asking us, is this Alliance LGB, the breakaway, an inevitable consequence of the craziness of the T in LGBT, or is it a genuinely transphobic organisation? Because, I think Douglas Murray's latest book, The Madness of Crowds, he mentions this, and he says LGB and T don't have really many interests in common, because
it's a weird
not
category
really
error to me.
It is. I mean, I think maybe from a more bureaucratic point of view, we might agree with that. But it is true. I mean, some of the stuff around being lesbian or gay can be scientifically backed, maybe, but this whole trans thing has just spiraled out of control, and not many people have stopped to think what really is the science behind this. And I get it, whether you're trans or not, you deserve respect. You should be treated with respect.
Yeah, dignity, equal rights. You should be able to go your life without being harassed or prejudiced against in the workplace or in society in general. I'm not having any bigotry or unfair treatment of anyone. It's an injustice. But anything outside of that is open to discussion and debate. It's politics, it's ideology, and I noticed that, to me, like, I would never really have any interest in this trans issue, rather, except for the fact it's taking up so much bandwidth of everyone's time in the media and society in general, and it's the far left again taking an issue to the extreme and getting further and further away from what's a sensible assessment of the situation, and that's ruining it for everyone. And my focus has always been free speech and faith-based dogma, and that's why I focus my attention on the far left of late.
Yeah, this is like a new form of dogma now.
Yeah, like, was it Meghan Murphy who got banned from Twitter for tweeting "men aren't women"? And the Twitter banned her. So a lot of this, far left ideology on this issue is backed by the big. I remember Tim Pool. He had the the brass of Twitter at his mercy on the Joe Rogan show, and they didn't realise that a lot of their views on trans issues, they think they're neutral politically, and he had to explain to him, actually, no, your views on trans issues have got a left bias. A lot of right-wing conservatives or centrists don't accept what you're saying here, and they're getting banned on Twitter for being open about that. And that they are genuinely so much in a bubble, they don't realise that they have a sort of left-wing bias on this issue.
It's just, I remember when. Do you remember when Always, the sanitary pad brand?
Oh yeah.
It removed the Venus symbol of the female sex from its wrapping because a trans activist tweeted in the summer asking Always why it was necessary to have that sign on their sanitary wear, and oh god, it's discrimination. And I remember. I think this was in 2018. Kenny, a transgender man, was picked to front the I'm On campaign by Pink Parcel. That's a period subscription box. And
so we've just got to pretend now that transgender women can ovulate. Is that something I've got to accept now? Can I not?
Well, I mean, if they're biologically female, I guess they could. But the thing is, the point of the campaign was to destigmatize menstruation. And prior to that, Kenny said he felt shame and embarrassment about having periods while living as a man. So
got it right. Sorry, I got it the wrong way around.
Why have him front an anti-stigma campaign when you're trying to tell people to be proud of who you are and own menstruation, when this person has just said they feel shame and embarrassment? This is somebody who felt shame in being in their female body, really. So I don't get the whole link with that campaign. It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, we've gone on for a bit. We're about an hour and 20 minutes in. My bladder's full, for one. And I personally blame Michael Owen.
You know, I think Michael Owen has become such a scapegoat figure. Really, you know...
Oh, you've turned it round on Michael Owen now, have you? You kind of...
Well, I think, do you know what? I think, bless him, I think he's living this carefree, innocent life, that he's not tainted by all these transgender issues. He doesn't care whether al-Baghdadi died like a dog or not, or whether it's Pakistan safe. He's just there with his horse, not watching any movies, just
yeah. If he's on if Michael Owen's on Twitter, politely send him some movie recommendations. Iram, it's been a pleasure.
Aye, it has.
Until next time. Au revoir. Thank you for listening to the Godless Spellchecker podcast. The podcast is a one-man operation, produced in my spare time away from my day job, and I love making it for you. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider lending some support. The show is entirely listener-supported. I don't sell anything, I don't run ads, and given the alternative and unpopular focus of my content, it's very unlikely to find a sponsor. So, there are a number of ways you can support and chip in and help improve the show and give me more time to produce more content. You can become a patron supporter and pledge a monetary amount per month or per episode by visiting patreon.com/gspellchecker. If you can't lend monetary support right now, don't worry, there's other ways you can help the podcast too. You can share it on your various social media networks, or take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to it. Your support is massively appreciated. Thank you. Think we've all learned something here today?